Sometimes in life, we come across people who constantly act superior. Those who speak to others as if they know everything, as if they're the wisest in the room. Their high ego and condescending attitude serve as a kind of armor. But here's the interesting part. You don't need to shout, argue, or engage in an intellectual battle to break through that armor. Sometimes a single simple yet profound phrase can completely disarm such a person. In this video, you'll learn how to disarm arrogant people using silence, calm strength, and wisdom. Now let's take a look at the 6 powerful phrases that will bring you closer to mastering this quiet power. I believe this video will be truly insightful for all of us. So don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and most importantly, watch till the end to fully understand each of these 6 phrases. If you're ready, let's begin. Sometimes a simple phrase can completely change an argument, a tense moment, or even a relationship. Because most people, especially the arrogant ones, constantly feel misunderstood. They act as if they're fighting against the whole world, believing that everyone is against them. And when you calmly say, "I understand you," at that very moment, they suddenly feel no need to continue the battle. So, the first phrase to use when dealing with arrogant people is this: "I understand you." This short sentence turns off their defense mode, because arrogance is in fact a mask for fear. A person elevates themselves because deep inside, they crave validation. They want to be right, valued, and superior. But when you give them this simple message, "I've heard you, I understand you," that inner need begins to fade. They stop fighting you because you're no longer playing the role of their enemy. As the Stoic said, it's not what happens that disturbs you, but your reaction to it. This phrase embodies that truth. By choosing not to react, you gain control. You don't defend yourself, but you also don't lose. You simply remain calm, and that calmness is incredibly powerful. Imagine this. Someone treats you unfairly, criticizes you, maybe even raises their voice. You take a deep breath and simply say, "I understand you." Suddenly, the entire atmosphere shifts. Their anger, their arrogance, and it begins to dissolve. Because in your response, there's no argument, no surrender, just quiet strength. Saying, "I understand you," doesn't mean you agree with them. It simply means you've listened. Most people want to be heard before they want to be right. They raise their voice because deep down they feel unseen. When you say, "I hear you," their ego becomes defenseless. This phrase also carries inner confidence. Only a person who is grounded and secure can calmly say, "I understand you." Those who are anxious feel the urge to react or defend themselves immediately. But a Stoic knows that understanding doesn't mean agreeing, it means observing without being controlled. In life, many will misunderstand you. Some will criticize you. Some will mistake your silence for weakness. But remember, silence isn't weakness, it's mastery. Giving others space to express themselves doesn't mean you suppress your emotions. It means you control them. Epictetus once said, "It's not events that disturb people, but the meaning they attach to those events." When you say, "I understand you," you're changing the meaning of the event. You're transforming the battlefield of conflict into the ground of understanding. And that not only brings peace to the situation, it also brings peace within you. This phrase is a reflection of inner strength, because only someone who is calm inside can truly say it. And remember, arrogant people will test you, trying to provoke a reaction. But the less you react, the louder your silence becomes. The second phrase is equally powerful. "Maybe you're right." This expression is quiet but incredibly deep. Saying "maybe you're right" doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're choosing peace over ego. For an arrogant person, this phrase can be completely disarming. They seek arguments, they want to win, to have the last word. But when you calmly say, maybe you're right, their entire game collapses. Arrogant people believe they can drag you down to their level and win there. They shout, insist, and demand to be right. But when you respond with, maybe you're right, all that energy instantly fades, because you've shifted to a state of inner peace. You've realized that arguing is pointless. And that's one of the most profound Stoic lessons. Seek not to be right, but to be calm. Maybe you're right is a subtle psychological strategy. You allow the other person to feel right while remaining at peace within yourself. It's like holding up a mirror. They try to pull you into conflict, but instead, they're faced with your quiet composure. And in that moment, they realize they no longer control you. This phrase is also a symbol of inner freedom, because only a confident person can say, maybe you're right. A fearful or ego-driven person can't. They equate it with losing. But from a Stoic perspective, it's not defeat. It's a calm victory. You protect your values not through argument, but through silence. And in that stillness, you win. Not over others, but over yourself. Imagine for a moment, someone comes at you, criticizes you, and tries to force their opinion onto you. And you simply smile and calmly say, maybe you're right. In that instant, they don't get the reaction they were expecting. They wanted an argument, but you didn't accept the fight. And so they're left with themselves, neither victorious nor at peace. While you remain calm and untouchable, the Stoics used to say, no one can degrade you unless you allow it. And this phrase reflects that exact philosophy. You're not trying to prove you're right, because you understand that being right often lives in silence. You don't need to prove every thought. You're simply protecting yourself, your energy, your stability. The beauty of this phrase is that it not only shields you, but also makes the other person think. Your lack of reaction forces them to confront their own thoughts. In your silence, they begin to question their certainty. Sometimes just a few seconds of pause can spark a long reflection. And without saying a word, you make them think. For arrogant people, silence is dangerous, because silence acts like a mirror. When you say, maybe you're right, they begin to see their own ego reflected in that calmness. It's a quiet power, one that forces them to hear their own inner voice. And often, that power leaves a deeper impact than shouting ever could. Saying, maybe you're right, is also a way of keeping yourself clean. Because if you try to win every argument, you'll eventually lose your inner peace. But with this phrase, you not only protect your energy, you save the relationship from becoming toxic. It's both wisdom and mental discipline. Socrates once said, the wise man does not always win, but he never truly loses. And that's exactly what happens when you say, maybe you're right. You might lose the argument, but you preserve your dignity. You quietly step back, and in that silence you gain respect and peace. Remember, sometimes silence isn't about winning. It's about not losing yourself. Maybe you're right isn't a phrase of weakness. It's the language of wisdom. It's as if you're saying, for me, peace matters more than being right. And in that moment, you're speaking from your mind, not your ego. Because in the end, it's not a person's voice that defines their strength, it's their calmness. And this quiet phrase, maybe you're right, lifts you out of the world of arrogant people and opens the door to your inner freedom. Now let's move on to the third phrase. The third phrase to use when dealing with arrogant people is, I find your perspective interesting. This sentence sounds simple, but within it lies deep psychological strength. Because arrogant people crave one thing, attention and validation. When they speak, they expect admiration, not disagreement. So when you say, "I find your perspective interesting," it confuses them. Because that phrase is neither praise nor rejection, it's neutral. It acts like a mirror rather than a wall. It calms their ego without feeding it. You neither fully agree nor refuse them. You acknowledge them with distance and respect. This is a key Stoic skill, maintaining emotional distance. You're not trying to change the other person. You're simply not reacting to their behavior, and often that's the most powerful form of victory. The silent kind. Arrogant people usually think, if I'm talking, I'm right. They raise their voice, change their tone, and present their opinions as truth. But when you quietly say, "I find your perspective interesting," you break their rhythm. They don't know how to respond because there's no fear or submission in your tone, only calm strength. This phrase also reflects self-confidence, because only a person secure in their own views can find someone else's view interesting. Weak people fear other opinions. Arrogant people reject them. But wise people listen, evaluate, and respond calmly. When you say, "I find it interesting," you're essentially saying, "I've heard you, but I also have my own perspective." It's a way to protect your boundaries without shattering the other person's ego. For Stoics, listening is a sign of power. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Listen to everyone, but accept the thoughts of few." This phrase carries the same philosophy. You listen, you understand, but you don't fall under anyone's influence. Now imagine a real situation. Someone is speaking arrogantly, trying to impose their view on you. You simply smile and say calmly, "I find your perspective interesting." At that moment they stop, because you neither criticized nor applauded them. You acknowledged their view, but didn't accept it. This psychologically unbalances them. The thing arrogant people fear most is losing control. They try to pull you into an argument to dominate you. But with this phrase, you take the game out of their hands. You're saying, "I heard you, but I don't need to react." And at that moment, the stage belongs to you, not them. The deeper meaning of this phrase is this: your opinion is interesting, but it doesn't change my values. You neither deny nor embrace, you simply observe. And that is Stoic stillness itself. Calm observation, emotionless response. Sometimes this phrase can transform relationships too. If someone belittles your opinion, instead of reacting with anger, you can simply say, "It's interesting that you see it that way." It's not a wall, it's a mirror. People shout at walls, but they think when facing a mirror. You give them space to reflect. That's not weakness, that's emotional discipline. This phrase also conveys a very subtle message. You have your opinion, and I have mine. You say it neither arrogantly nor humbly, simply with balance. And this balance shakes the foundation of an arrogant person, because they are used to seeing either fear, submission, or aggression in others. But you show neither fear nor anger. You remain calm and profound. Epictetus said, "No one can demean you unless you abandon your own values." The phrase, "I find your perspective interesting," is a practical expression of this principle. You respond with respect while preserving your values, and in doing so, you maintain both your level and your composure. Remember, inside every arrogant person is insecurity. Their voice is loud because they lack inner silence. As you speak calmly, their noise loses significance, and eventually they realize that the deepest response is quietness and courtesy. The fourth phrase, although spoken quietly and humbly, carries deep moral and psychological weight. It is, "It's worth thinking about." Saying, "It's worth thinking about," involves neither argument nor agreement. It's simply a pause. And that pause often has more impact than silence alone. Arrogant people like those who react quickly, answer quickly, and make snap judgments. because that makes them easier to control. They want you to get heated, to respond, to defend yourself. But when you calmly say, "It's worth thinking about," their plan collapses. Because you stop playing their game. You no longer react, you simply observe. This phrase is also a form of emotional control. By allowing a moment for thought, both for yourself and for them, you respond with reflection rather than words. This is one of the Stoics' most powerful tools. Marcus Aurelius said, "Do not answer without thinking. If it is worth answering, it should be deeper than silence." With this phrase, you do exactly that. You speak, but within the silence. It also demonstrates inner restraint. You neither agree nor deny. You simply give time. For the Stoics, time is the greatest teacher. The person criticizing you today may understand tomorrow, but you do not rush this understanding. You simply say, "It's worth thinking about," and you let the matter flow with life. The deepest dialogues often happen after silence. When a person is alone, reflecting on their words, they see reality. With this phrase, you give them space to think. It is subtle, yet profoundly intelligent. You neither close the door completely nor open it entirely. You leave a space. And that space plants a seed in the mind of an arrogant person. Remember, you are not obliged to debate every opinion. Sometimes a single sentence suffices. "It's worth thinking about." This phrase protects you, elevates you, and calms you, because thinking is often a stronger response than speaking. Now, the fifth phrase you can use with ego-driven people is, "I'm curious." Why do you think that way? This phrase sounds simple, but is actually a delicate psychological strategy. With it, you move the other person from defense to reflection. Most people, especially those with high egos, express opinions not for dialogue, but for dominance. They enter a competition, not a conversation. But when you calmly, sincerely ask, "I'm curious, why do you think that way?" the game changes completely. In that moment, a pause forms in their mind. They expected you to defend yourself, argue, and present counterpoints. But you do none of that. You simply show curiosity. And for the ego, this creates an uncontrolled situation. The depth of this sentence lies in the fact that it neither sparks argument nor judgment. It simply encourages the other person to analyze their own thoughts. Interestingly, many people have no deep reason behind their opinions. They speak based on emotions, influence, or habit. When you ask this question, they realize it, and they sense power in your calmness. Imagine this. Someone criticizes you or makes an unfair statement. Most people would respond immediately, but you pause and ask, "I'm curious, why do you think that way?" This demonstrates both level-headedness and the manifestation of silence. Because you are not rejecting their words, you are inviting reflection. And in that moment, they start evaluating their own statements. The sixth phrase recommended by the Stoics is, "I don't agree with you, but I respect your opinion." This is the highest level of Stoic thinking. Here, you neither diminish yourself nor belittle the other person. You simply demonstrate a calm but firm stance. This sentence sets boundaries while showing respect, a rare balance of two forces. Arrogant people usually expect one of two reactions, either fear and submission or argument and agitation. But you give them neither. You calmly say, "I don't agree with you, but I respect your opinion." In that moment, their ego doesn't know how to respond. Because you neither fight nor flee, you simply stand firm. This phrase acts as a silent shield. It protects you from emotional attacks while setting boundaries, without compromising your values. It doesn't end the argument, but it shifts the level. You are no longer on the level of who is right. You move to the level of respect and boundaries. The psychological effect of this behavior is remarkable. Arrogant people don't expect respect. They expect obedience, but when you show them respect, their plan fails. Because this is the calmest power to neutralize aggression. Showing respect with calmness is a silent remedy that breaks the ego. This phrase also reflects inner balance. Only someone who controls their emotions can respectfully disagree. Otherwise, "I don't agree" would turn into aggression. But when you say it calmly and politely, you demonstrate both level and control. Such behavior leaves an impression on people. You are different. You possess quiet strength. In life, there are many moments when someone misunderstands you, mocks your opinion, or tries to belittle you. But if you pause and quietly say, "I don't agree with you, but I respect your opinion," you have already won. Because if you are master of your emotions, no one can control you. This phrase is incredibly effective in relationships, work, and daily dialogue. It preserves mutual respect while establishing your inner boundaries. It's the most polite way of saying, "I hear you, but I do not share your path." When you use this phrase, many people start to understand you. Because your style is built on maturity, not aggression. You speak not to win them over, but to protect your own stability. And that is true wisdom. Remember, every opinion deserves respect, but not every opinion should compel you to change. You can maintain your own perspective while showing respect to others. This balance makes you both strong and calm. Thus, the greatest weapon in dealing with arrogance is emotional control. It is possible to remain strong without shouting, proving, or trying to be right. Remember, sometimes staying calm is the highest form of victory. Let your actions, silence, and composed stance be your deepest response. Arrogance seeks to win with voice, but wisdom wins with silence. Thank you for watching this far. I hope the insights on these phrases for dealing with ego-driven people will be useful to you. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss similar content.